$37 million. That was the number printed in bold at the top of the letter that changed my life. But beneath it, in neat cursive, was a warning. Every fortune carries a cost. Claim this inheritance, and you may pay with more than money. I laughed when I first read it. 37 million was more money than I could ever imagine. The idea that some shadowy cost could outweigh it seemed ridiculous. But by the time I finished the letter, by the time I stood at the gates of my late uncle's crumbling estate, I wasn't laughing anymore. The house loomed in the fog, massive and decayed, its windows like blind eyes staring down at me. The driveway was littered with weeds breaking through cracked asphalt. Every instinct screamed to turn around. But that number, 37 million, burned in my head like fire. I pushed open the iron gates. They groaned like something alive, echoing into the mist. My footsteps crunched gravel as I crossed the courtyard, letter clutched in my sweaty palm. Inside, the house smelled of dust and old wood. A chandelier swayed gently above me, though there was no draft. My uncle had been eccentric, sure, but the stories about him had always sounded exaggerated. Whispers about rituals, about secret rooms. Nonsense, or so I thought. On the grand table in the entry hall lay another envelope, sealed in crimson wax. My name was written across it. Hands trembling, I tore it open. Inside was a single line, 30 nights. Survive them all, and the fortune is yours. My pulse thundered in my ears. 30 nights? Of what? Alone in this place? I almost crumpled the letter then and there. But then I saw it tucked behind the note was a check. Dated. Signed. Stamped. 37 million. Real. Tangible. I swallowed hard. 30 nights suddenly didn't feel so impossible. I carried my bag upstairs, every floorboard moaning under my weight. The second-floor hallway stretched endlessly, lined with faded portraits whose eyes seemed to follow me. In the guest room, the bed was freshly made, though no one had lived here in years. As I unpacked, a sharp sound broke the silence. Tick. I froze. Tick. Not from a clock. From my wrist. I hadn't worn a watch in years. Slowly, I looked down. A Rolex gleamed on my arm, though I'd never seen it before. Its second hand twitched unnaturally, clicking once every few breaths. My stomach turned. I pulled at it, desperate to remove it, but the band clung tight, as if fused to my skin. The watch clicked again, and then I heard it, a faint whisper, curling through the air like smoke. Welcome, air. The whisper lingered long after it faded, echoing in my skull like a thought that wasn't mine. Welcome, air. I ripped at the watch again, skin reddening under the pressure, but it refused to budge. The Rolex ticked once more, steady, deliberate like a countdown. I told myself I was imagining things. Stress, exhaustion, the weight of that check burning a hole in my pocket. I had to be hallucinating. Still, I locked the guest room door before I lay down. Sleep didn't come easy. Every creak of the house felt magnified. Every gust of wind against the shutters sounded like someone breathing at the window. Around midnight, I finally drifted off, only to wake in total darkness. The bedside lamp was dead. My phone, too. The only light came from the faint glow of the Rolex dial. Tick. My pulse raced. I sat up, listening. Something moved in the hallway. Not footsteps exactly, more like dragging. Uneven, as if someone were pulling themselves along the floor. It stopped outside my door. I held my breath. The doorknob rattled once, twice. Then it turned slowly. I had locked it. I knew I had. The knob kept turning until it clicked open. The door swung an inch, just enough for a shadow to spill across the carpet. I forced myself to stand, heart hammering. Who's there? My voice was barely a whisper. Silence, then a rasp, low and guttural. 30 nights. I lunged forward and slammed the door shut. The shadow recoiled, twisting unnaturally before vanishing into the crack beneath the doorframe. For hours, I sat with my back against the door, revolver-shaped fear in my hand, though I had no weapon. When morning came, sunlight filtered weakly through the curtains. The watch ticked once more and then fell silent, as if satisfied. I thought maybe I'd dreamt it. Maybe exhaustion had broken something in my mind. But when I opened the door, the hallway floorboards bore fresh gouges, long parallel scratches, as though fingernails or claws had dragged across the wood. And taped to the wall was another envelope. My name, again. Inside, a note. That was only the beginning. Survive tonight, and the next will be worse. 37 million waits at the end. Do you still want it? My hands shook. My instinct screamed to run, to leave the house behind and never look back. But then I pictured the check again. 37 million. A future free of debt, free of struggle. I shoved the letter into my pocket and whispered aloud, as if convincing myself, I can last 30 nights. But deep down, I already knew whatever was inside this house had no intention of letting me last that long. Daylight, made the house seem almost ordinary. Almost. The scratches in the hallway remained, etched deep into the wood, undeniable proof that what I'd seen wasn't just a dream. I spent the day exploring. Every door creaked open to reveal rooms frozen in time. A study lined with dust-choked books. A dining hall with plates still set as if for a meal never eaten. A nursery where a broken rocking horse swayed gently, though no wind stirred. But what disturbed me most was the mirror in the upstairs bathroom. Its surface rippled faintly, like water when I stared too long. And behind my reflection, for the briefest second, I thought I saw someone else standing in the room, watching. By sundown, the air itself seemed heavier. The house exhaled with the setting sun, and I braced myself for the second night. I barricaded the door with the dresser this time, checked the lock 3 times, sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the Rolex glowing faintly on my wrist. Tick. The sound echoed through the silence. This time, I didn't even try to sleep. At precisely midnight, the lights flickered and died. I clutched a flashlight, but its beam sputtered and died too. Only the Rolex remained lit, casting a sickly glow on my trembling hands. Tick. The air grew cold. Frost crept across the window pane, though it was summer outside. My breath fogged before me. And then, the mirror. From down the hall came a sharp crack, like glass splitting. Another, then another. I crept toward the door, every instinct screaming to stay put, but curiosity dragged me forward. The dresser scraped loudly as I pushed it aside. I opened the door a crack. The mirror in the bathroom was glowing faintly. Something moved inside it. I edged closer, steps careful on the groaning floorboards. My reflection stared back, wide eyes, pale face, but it wasn't moving like I was. When I lifted my hand, it didn't. When I breathed, its chest stayed still. And then it smiled. My stomach lurched. I stumbled back, slamming against the hallway wall. The reflection tilted its head, grinning wider, and raised a hand smeared with black liquid that dripped down the inside of the glass. 2 nights, it whispered, though its lips never moved. The glass cracked. A spider web of fractures spread across the mirror, and from the breaks oozed a thick, tar-like substance that dripped onto the tiles. I ran back to my room, slamming the door, dragging the dresser across again. Behind me, I heard the mirror shatter. Then the dragging sound returned, closer this time, moving along the hallway wall, scraping, searching. Tick. I pressed my back to the door, clutching the flashlight like a weapon, praying the thing stayed on the other side. The Rolex ticked again. And then, silence. When dawn came, I found the bathroom spotless. No broken glass, no black tar, just a pristine mirror. Except my reflection's smile lingered a second too long before it faded. By the 3rd day, exhaustion had dug its claws into me. My hands shook constantly, and every corner of the house seemed to hold a threat. I tried to keep busy, searching for hidden rooms, checking old records in the study, anything to distract myself from the dread of nightfall. That's when I found the ledger. It was buried beneath stacks of yellowed paper in the study, its leather binding cracked with age. Inside were names, dozens of them scrawled in my uncle's sharp handwriting. Next to each name was a number: 7, 14, 29. The final name was mine. Next to it, 0. My stomach twisted. Was this some kind of countdown? A list of heirs before me? If so, what happened to the others? The answer came that night. As the sun slipped behind the horizon, the Rolex pulsed faintly on my wrist, each tick louder, heavier. Midnight arrived, and with it, a sound that froze my blood. Children laughing. It echoed down the hallway, light and playful, but warped, too slow, like a recording played at half speed. My chest tightened. I knew there hadn't been children in this house for decades. I crept into the hall, drawn by the sound. The portraits lining the walls seemed to leer at me, their painted eyes glinting with mockery. The laughter grew louder. It came from the nursery. I shouldn't have opened the door. Inside, moonlight spilled across dusty toys and peeling wallpaper. But the rocking horse wasn't broken anymore. It moved steadily back and forth, creaking. In the corner, a music box played by itself, its tinny melody warbling in and out of tune. And then, voices. Thomas, with a Dornever Bose, my name, whispered sweetly, like a parent calling a child in for supper. My throat tightened. My mother had called me that way when I was little. She'd been gone for years, but I would have sworn on my life it was her voice. Come play, Thomas. From the shadows stepped a figure, a child, but not quite right. Its proportions were wrong, its face blurred, like a painting someone had smudged with their fingers. Yet its tone was unmistakable. Why didn't you save me? It asked. I stumbled back, heart hammering. You're not real. The child tilted its head, and suddenly its voice shifted, deeper, male, accusing. You left us to rot. The ledger flashed in my mind. Those names, those numbers. The child's face twisted, melting into another figure, A man, this time, taller, gaunt, with hollow eyes. His lips pulled back into a grin that wasn't human. "Third night," he rasped. "The ledger never lies." The nursery door slammed shut behind me. The rocking horse clattered violently. The music box, screeching off-key. Shadows lunged from every corner. I shoved past the figure, clawing the door open with a scream, and bolted into the hallway. My chest burned, my legs barely holding me upright. Behind me, the laughter warped into shrieks. I collapsed against my room's door, dragging the dresser across once more. My whole body trembled as the Rolex ticked twice, then fell still. When dawn came, the nursery was silent. No toys moved, no music played. But on the rocking horse lay the ledger, open to the final page. Next to my name, the number had changed. 3. By the fourth day, I was running on fumes. My reflection in the cracked mirror showed a pale, hollow-eyed version of myself. The ledger's cruel mark 3 burned in my mind. It wasn't just counting nights, it was counting down. I thought about leaving, about walking straight out the door, 37 million be damned. But when I tried, the gates wouldn't open. Rusted iron bars that had swung wide my first day now held firm, fused as if welded shut. I even tried scaling the wall, only to find the stone slick and crumbling beneath my hands. The house had me, and it wasn't letting go. When the sun dipped, I armed myself with the only weapon I could find, a rusted fire poker from the fireplace. It felt laughably inadequate, but the weight of it gave me courage. Midnight arrived. The Rolex ticked once, glowing faintly, and the house shifted. The floor beneath me groaned like a wounded animal. Dust rained from the ceiling. I stumbled into the hallway, flashlight beam jittering across the walls. Then I heard it. A deep, grinding sound. Stone against stone. The floorboards split apart beneath my feet. I leapt back just in time as a section of the hallway collapsed, revealing a pit yawning into darkness below. A trap. Heart pounding, I scrambled backward, only for the floor to buckle again. This time, I barely caught the edge of the doorframe as boards splintered under me. My legs dangled over nothing, air rushing up cold and damp from the abyss below. I heaved myself up, chest screaming with effort, and rolled into the room. My flashlight flickered, but in that moment of weak light, I saw what waited in the pit. Not emptiness, not stone, bodies, pale, half-rotted, stacked like discarded mannequins. Dozens of them. Their faces blurred, unrecognizable, but their hands reached upward as if still clawing for escape. I gagged, bile burning my throat. My uncle's ledger, the names, the countdowns. These were the ones who hadn't survived. A voice drifted up from the pit, wet and slurred. "Join us." The corpses shifted, their arms writhing. The pit wasn't just filled with bodies, it was alive. I staggered back, slamming the door shut just as a skeletal hand thrust through the gap. Splinters pierced my palms as I shoved the dresser across, pinning it shut. The scratching continued for hours, nails against wood, moans rising like a grotesque choir. The Rolex ticked again, and the voices hushed. By dawn, the pit was gone. The hallway was whole again, as if nothing had ever happened. But I knew better. When I crept back to the ledger, my heart nearly stopped. Next to my name, the number had changed again. 4. The house wasn't just keeping count. It was marking my survival. By the 5th day, I stopped pretending I had control. The house was in charge, and I was a rat in its maze. Sleep had become a luxury I could no longer afford. My eyes burned, my body ached, but my mind refused to shut down. I sat in the study with the ledger open before me, staring at that single number next to my name. 4. How many nights before it reached 30? What happened when it did? Did I win? Or did I simply take my place in the pit? I traced my finger over the older entries. Some had only a 1 or a 2 before they stopped. Others climbed higher. 10, 17. No name had reached 30. None. At dusk, I tried to leave again. Desperation pushed me to tear at the boards on the windows, to scream for help through the iron bars. No one came. Not even an echo answered. It was as though the estate existed outside the world, sealed in its own nightmare. When midnight came, I was already trembling. The Rolex pulsed. Tick. And then, silence. No dragging, no whispers, no breaking glass. The house was utterly still. Then a voice spoke, not from the hallway, not from behind the door, from everywhere, from the walls, the floors, the air itself. "You are stronger than the others." I froze, breath trapped in my throat. "You want the 37 million, but you've begun to wonder, is money worth this?" I forced my voice steady. "What do you want from me?" The voice chuckled, deep and smooth, like oil sliding down glass. "Survival is only half the game. The other half is choice." I gripped the fire poker, though I knew it was useless against a voice. Choice? You can endure 25 more nights. You might even survive. But why suffer? Why bleed, starve, and scream in the dark when you can take the fortune now? My stomach lurched. Now? The chandelier above me swayed gently, though no wind blew. Shadows rippled across the walls, coiling into vague shapes human but distorted. Yes. Take the fortune tonight. All 37 million. But the price is simple. A replacement. The ledger on the desk snapped open by itself, its pages fluttering until they stopped on the blank space below my name. Write another's name, the voice whispered. Give the house a new heir, someone else to claim the nights. Do this, and you walk free at dawn, rich beyond your dreams. My hand trembled. I thought of people I hated, people who deserved punishment, a boss who ruined lives, a cousin who mocked me for years. My pen hovered, but then I thought of the pit, the bodies, the child in the nursery, the faces blurred and broken. Don't do it, I whispered to myself. The shadows writhed eagerly, stretching toward me. You can end this suffering, the voice cooed. Or you can endure. But remember, each night grows worse, and you are not as strong as you pretend. The Rolex ticked once, loud as a gunshot. When dawn came, the ledger remained blank beneath my name. I hadn't written a soul. But I knew the house wouldn't forgive my refusal. By the sixth day, I couldn't hide the truth from myself anymore. The house wasn't just trying to break me, it was waiting for me to surrender. Every night was a test. Every refusal made it angrier. I had spent the morning staring at the blank space in the ledger, the pen still where I dropped it. I wondered if the others, the names with numbers cut short, had also refused the deal. If that was why they were in the pit. By sundown, dread sat heavy in my gut. I barricaded my room with everything I could. Moved dresser, chair, even the mattress dragged against the door. I clutched the fire poker like it was a sword. Midnight. The Rolex ticked, and the house struck back. The walls shook, rattling the frames and bookshelves. Dust fell from the ceiling in choking clouds. Then came the voices. Not whispers, not laughter. Screams. They were my screams. I froze. The sound came from everywhere, hallways, ceilings, beneath the floorboards. Dozens of versions of my own voice, howling in agony. One begged for mercy. Another sobbed. A third shrieked, until the sound splintered my eardrums. I clamped my hands over my ears, but it didn't help. The screams burrowed into my skull. Then the barricaded door shuddered. Once. Twice. On the third hit, the dresser slid an inch across the floor. Something was outside. The mattress bulged inward, as if a giant hand pressed against it. The springs groaned. Then came the stench. Rot. Sulfur. Coppery blood seeping into the room. My chest seized. The Rolex glowed hot against my wrist, branding my skin. And then I heard my name. Thomas. Not my scream this time. My mother's voice again. Sweet, calm. I wanted to believe it. I wanted to open the door. But the smell, the pressure, the weight pushing harder and harder against the barricade, it was wrong. Thomas. The voice cooed again. It's safe now. You can rest. The dresser screeched another foot across the floor. The fire poker rattled in my grip. No, I shouted, though my voice cracked. You're not her. Silence fell for half a breath. Then the thing laughed. Low, guttural, mocking. The mattress ripped in two. A hand, if it could be called, that thrust through. Black, gnarled, with too many fingers. They curled and snapped like bone twigs, reaching for me. I swung the fire poker with everything I had. It connected with a sickening crunch. The hand shrieked, not the sound of a human, but a shrill metallic screech that rattled the glass in the windows. The hand withdrew. The barricade sagged, the room falling silent again. The Rolex ticked. 1, 2. When dawn came, my barricade was untouched. The mattress whole. The door closed. But my hand still reeked of rot, where I'd struck the thing. And on the floor, near the doorframe, lay a single finger, blackened, twitching. And in the ledger, the number beside my name had shifted again. 6. The sixth night had left me rattled, but part of me thought I'd won something. I'd fought back. I'd hurt whatever lived here. Maybe it meant I could survive. But the house wasn't going to make the same mistake twice. The seventh day crawled by. Every sound set my nerves on fire. The creak of wood, the flutter of moths trapped in the curtains, even the steady tick of the Rolex gnawed at me. I kept telling myself, if I lasted 30 nights, the fortune would be mine. But the ledger haunted me, that empty space beneath my name, the unclaimed line. By sunset, I felt watched from every corner. The house wasn't hiding anymore. I didn't bother with barricades this time. I knew they wouldn't hold. Instead, I gripped the fire poker and waited, back pressed against the wall, eyes locked on the door. Midnight. The Rolex ticked. Once, twice, then silence. Not the heavy, expectant silence of before. A thin, sharp silence that cut straight through the marrow of my bones. And then I realized, this time, the danger wasn't outside the door. It was already in the room. The air grew sour, thick with the stench of wet earth. The shadows along the far wall rippled and deepened, pulling away like fabric torn from nails. A figure stepped out, tall, thin, wrong. Its body was bent in impossible angles, limbs too long, neck tilted unnaturally. Its face was a blur of pale flesh, shifting constantly, never settling into features I could recognize. But its voice was mine. "You can't fight me, Thomas," it said. "I am you." My legs shook. I raised the poker anyway. "You're not me." It tilted its head, and its blurred face twisted into a grotesque smile. "I am what you'll become. Every scream you heard was yours. Every body in the pit wore your name. Do you think anyone ever really survives?" I swung. The poker passed through the thing as though it were smoke. It laughed, the sound stabbing through my skull. "Strike again," it mocked. "You'll only exhaust yourself." I staggered back, chest heaving, sweat pouring down my spine. Then it lunged. Its body blurred, one moment across the room, the next inches from me. Its hand, black, clawed, twitching, slashed across my chest. Pain seared through me, hot and real. Blood bloomed across my shirt. I fell, gasping, clutching the wound. The thing crouched above me, its smile wide enough to split its face. "Write the name," it whispered. "Give me someone else, or I'll carve you into the ledger myself." The Rolex ticked, loud as thunder, and for the first time, I saw fear in its face. It jerked back, hissing, as though the light from the watch seared it. Smoke curled from its blurred skin. It stumbled into the shadows, vanishing, leaving only the stench of rot and my blood soaking the floor. When dawn broke, the wound remained, real, raw. I dragged myself to the study, clutching my side, and stared at the ledger through blurred vision. The number beside my name had changed again, 7, and below it, where the blank line had been, new letters had appeared, faint but legible. A second name, not written by my hand. When I finally gathered the strength to look again, the letters on the ledger were clearer, burned into the page as though written in fire. The name below mine was one I knew. Eleanor Gray, my mother. I nearly tore the page from the book. My chest tightened, bile rising in my throat. My mother had been gone for over a decade. She had died quietly in her sleep, the doctors said, peacefully. But if her name was in the ledger, had she been part of this too? "No," I whispered. My hand shook as I traced the letters. "No, you can't have her." The house answered with a groan, deep and guttural, like the sound of the ocean pulling at rocks. The chandelier above me rattled, its crystals clinking like cruel laughter. I slammed the ledger shut, refusing to look again. But the damage was done. My thoughts spiraled. Had my uncle drawn her into this? Was her death part of the house's design? Or worse, was she one of the blurred faces I'd seen in the pit? The Rolex ticked. Midnight. The air chilled instantly, frosting the edges of the window panes. My wound throbbed, fresh blood dampening the bandage I'd tied around my chest. I gripped the fire poker tighter, though I already knew it was useless. Then I heard her. "Thomas," her voice, gentle, soft, the same tone she used when waking me for school as a boy. I shut my eyes, fighting tears. "You're not real. You're not her." But when I opened them, she was standing in the doorway. Her hair was silver now, her face kind, exactly as I remembered it in her last years. She wore the blue dress she'd loved, the one we buried her in. She smiled. "Oh, my sweet boy, you don't have to fight anymore." My heart ached. I wanted to run to her, to bury myself in her arms and let the nightmare end. But the wound across my chest burned hot, reminding me this was no mercy. "You're not her," I forced out. She stepped closer, her smile widening, too wide. The skin around her mouth cracked as the expression stretched unnaturally. "You always were stubborn," she whispered, her voice now layered, echoing, as if 100 mouths spoke at once. "Just write another's name. Give me your cousin, your friend, a stranger, it doesn't matter. I will take them, and you will live." Her hands reached out. At first they looked soft, delicate, but as they neared my face the flesh melted, leaving claws blackened like charred bone. I swung the poker. It passed through her, but the apparition didn't fade this time. Instead, her face twisted, the eyes hollowing into black pits. Her smile split, ear to ear. "You'll be mine, Thomas." Just like she was. The chandelier crashed to the floor between us, shattering, the sparks briefly banishing her form. When the smoke cleared, she was gone. I collapsed to my knees, gasping. My blood dripped onto the ledger where it lay open once more. The number beside my name had changed again. 8. And beneath my mother's name, a faint new line appeared, the ink forming slowly, like veins spreading through paper. This time, the letters spelled a name I had not spoken in years. Daniel, my brother. The name on the page wouldn't stop burning itself into my vision. Daniel Gray, my younger brother. The one who'd cut ties years ago, leaving me to deal with our family's mess alone. We hadn't spoken in nearly a decade, but still seeing his name in the ledger twisted my stomach into knots. No, I whispered, slamming the book shut. You won't take him. You won't take anyone. But the house already had what it wanted. Midnight, the Rolex ticked, and the world unraveled. The walls of the study groaned and split, plaster crumbling as darkness seeped through the cracks like liquid tar. The air grew heavy, every breath thick as smoke. The chandelier above, twisted and warped, bending into jagged iron claws that reached toward me. And then he was there. Daniel. At least, that's what it looked like at first. He stood in the doorway, wearing the same jacket he used to wear in college. His face was pale, eyes hollow but familiar. Brother, he said, his voice trembling, you left me. I had no choice but to come here. My throat tightened. You're not him. He's alive. You're just another trick. But the figure stepped forward, and his voice grew sharper. Don't you understand? The house chooses. It always chooses. You were never strong enough to carry it. You should have given me the burden. The room convulsed, the floorboards splitting open to reveal the pit again. The writhing mass of bodies clawing at each other, shrieking in voices I recognized. Mine. My mother's. Now Daniel's. The figure lunged at me, its features twisting into that blurred, faceless shape I'd seen before. This time, I didn't back down. I raised the Rolex high, and its ticking thundered in the silence. The glow seared through the shadows, burning the figure's flesh like acid. It screamed not Daniel's voice, but the voice of the house itself, deep and endless. You cannot escape, it roared. The ledger is never empty. The debt is eternal. I drove the fire poker straight into its chest. For once, the steel didn't pass through like smoke. It sank deep, the figure convulsing as black ichor poured out. The ledger burst into flames on the desk, the names burning away letter by letter. My mother's, Daniel's, finally, mine. The pit shrieked and collapsed into itself, the bodies vanishing in a violent rush of wind. And then, silence. The fire poker clattered to the floor. The Rolex ticked once more, softer now, like a heartbeat, finally slowing. When dawn broke, the house was empty. The windows no longer barred, the gates wide open. The ledger lay in ash, and on the desk, untouched by flame, sat a single envelope. Inside was a deed, the estate, 37 million in assets, but no signature, no condition, freedom. I stumbled out into the rising sun, the house shrinking behind me. I had survived 9 nights, but as the gates closed on their own, locking with a hollow clang, one thought chilled me more than any ghost. The Rolex still ticked. And the number it showed now wasn't 9. It was 1.